day the diamond necklace disappeared was also the day Sophia's life completely changed. A kind, hardworking young woman who had never done anything wrong suddenly branded a thief in her own home. The accusation came from none other than Lena, her own flesh and blood sister. No explanation was heard, no look of trust was given. Sophia was thrown out of the house in pouring rain with nothing but empty hands and a deep, unspoken wound in her heart. But it all began on what seemed like an ordinary morning. Their mother discovered that the diamond necklace, a priceless wedding gift from their grandmother, had gone missing from her jewelry box. The house was instantly filled with tension. Lena was the first to speak, her eyes dry but her voice full of anger. Only Sophia had access to Mom's room. Who else could have taken it? Each of Lena's words were like icy knives stabbing deep into Sophia's heart. She was stunned into silence, not even getting a chance to speak before everyone turned their backs on her. No one asked if she had really taken it. No one remembered the days she cared for their sick mother or gave up food for her sister. In just one morning, Sophia went from a dutiful daughter to someone cast out by her entire family. And the most painful part, it wasn't losing her home, but losing her faith in the people she loved most. The relentless rain seemed to pour down in rage at her fate. On her first night sleeping on the street, Sophia had no blanket, no shelter, only the cold, wet pavement, the blaring of car horns, and the wary stares of strangers. She clutched an old backpack. Inside were just a few changes of clothes and the notebook she once used for school. The next morning, Sophia awoke to the sound of hurried footsteps. People bustled past, but no one looked at her. A young girl with tangled hair, soaked clothes curled up by a tree. She tried to stand, but her legs were numb from the cold and hunger. She hadn't eaten since the day before. The small wallet where she had stashed a few coins had been stolen while she dozed off the previous night. Desperation, humiliation, a girl who once had a home now wandered the unfamiliar streets searching for shelter. Food stalls turned her away. She had no money. Passers-by shook their heads and ignored her pleas. Some even shouted, calling her a freeloader, a faker playing poor. Sophia cried silently, not because of the contempt, but because fear was beginning to settle in. She was afraid the world no longer had a place for her. She made her way to a park where the homeless often gathered. There she encountered all sorts of people, some withdrawn, some shady, others rambling like they'd lost their minds. Sophia didn't speak to anyone. She found a quiet corner, hugged her backpack, and tried to sleep. One day, driven by unbearable hunger, she wandered through the night market in search of work, any work, dishwashing, cleaning, anything, but every place turned her down. No ID, no local registration, who would dare hire you? One owner shouted in her face. She gave a bitter smile. From once being a top student with dreams of college, now she was nothing more than a nuisance. A few days later, Sophia collapsed from hunger. She awoke in a small room filled with the faint scent of herbal tea. Light filtered through a tiny window, illuminating the face of a middle-aged woman. Gentle eyes filled with thought. "You're awake," the soft voice asked. Sophia blinked. Who are you?" "My name's Anna. I sell porridge on the corner where you usually sit. That day it was freezing and you were shivering, your face pale. I couldn't just leave you there." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. Since she'd left home, this was the first time someone had called her child. Auntie Anna didn't ask too many questions. She simply placed a hot bowl of porridge in front of Sophia and turned away. That small gesture, so simple, melted Sophia's heart. A faint light in the darkness. Despite the cruelty of the world, kindness still existed. In the days that followed, Sophia stayed in the small kitchen behind the porridge shop. Auntie Anna gave her work washing dishes, cleaning in exchange for 3 meals a day, and a modest place to sleep. For Sophia, that was a dream come true. She worked diligently, never complaining about the hard labor. She still kept her habit of writing daily, in the old notebook she carried. One day, Auntie Anna secretly read a few pages and was surprised by the neat handwriting and the depth in the young girl's words. One evening, as Sophia was cleaning tables, a refined woman walked in. She was dressed simply, yet elegantly, her face graceful, her eyes sharp. Her name was Margaret. Auntie Anna greeted her politely. "You're late today." Margaret smiled warmly. "Traffic. I missed your porridge." Standing quietly behind Sophia poured the tea. But Margaret's gaze suddenly stopped at her. "Who's this young lady?" "Oh, just a poor girl I took in. She's well-behaved, respectful, and hard-working." Margaret smiled. There's something familiar in her eyes. Sophia bowed her head silently. There was something about this woman, something that tugged at her heart, though she couldn't yet explain why. That night, Auntie Anna asked if Sophia wanted to go back to school. Sophia gave a sad smile. I don't have anyone to vouch for me. No ID, no tuition money. I think that dream is meant for someone else." Anna said nothing, only gently placed a business card in her hand. Margaret Foundation, a place to revive shattered dreams. Oh, she's not just any one child. Margaret has traveled far and wide, seen countless lives. If you're brave enough to speak up, who knows? Sophia clutched the card tightly. For the first time in what felt like forever, a clear spark of hope lit up before her. She didn't know what the future held, but at least her heart, after so much pain, was beginning to feel a little warmth again. Perhaps sometimes we must be pushed to rock bottom to truly see who reaches out their hand. And sometimes the doors that slam in our faces so harshly are just guiding us toward another where destiny waits patiently on the other side. Sophia sat for a long time on the old wooden bench behind the porridge shop, her hand still tightly gripping the business card that read Margaret Foundation. Her mind was a storm of emotions, fear, hope, and doubt. Could someone like her, who had been thrown out of her own home and wandered the streets, ever be worthy of a second chance? Aunt Anna seemed to read her thoughts and gently placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "You don't need to be anyone else, just be yourself, that's enough." The next day, after much hesitation, Sophia arrived at the charity center. It was a modest but warm building on the outskirts of the city, with a courtyard full of greenery and hallways decorated with paintings created by the trainees themselves. When she handed the card to the receptionist, she was immediately led to a private office. Then the door opened, and there stood the woman from before, Mrs. Margaret. She looked at Sophia for a long moment and smiled gently. "I knew you'd come." Sophia lowered her head and murmured, I don't know if I deserve help. I was kicked out by my own family. I have nothing." Mrs. Margaret gently interrupted. "No one is born perfect. What matters is that when you lost everything, you didn't give up. That resilience, it's something to be proud of." Sophia was accepted into the center's training program, a place for young people who had gone through hardship. Some were orphans, some were recovering from addiction, some had survived abuse. Here, no one judged, no one compared. Everyone was called by their real name and listened to as a full human being. On her first day in the life skills class, Sophia felt lost. She didn't know where to start, from soft skills lessons to computer literacy, English classes, and creative writing workshops. But what moved her most was when she handed her old notebook to the teacher of the Telling Your Life Story class. The teacher flipped through a few pages, her eyes lighting up in surprise. "You write as if you're breathing through words." Sophia looked up wide-eyed. "You have a gift for storytelling. Not everyone can write like this, honestly, deeply, emotionally, but without self-pity." It was the first time in years that Sophia had been praised for who she truly was, not for grades, not for pleasing anyone, but for something she genuinely loved. From that day on, she began spending more time writing short stories, journals, even small plays about herself and her friends at the center. One day, Mrs. Margaret stumbled upon a draft of one of her stories and offered to publish it in the internal newsletter. The response stunned Sophia. Readers were moved, many brought to tears by the raw honesty in her words. Someone who had once been labeled a runaway, once curled up on cold sidewalks, was now making others pause and truly listen. The more she learned, the more Sophia realized she was far from useless. She understood she had been hurt, but it was those very scars that helped her empathize with others. In the listening skills class, she became the best because she knew what hopeless silence sounded like. In public speaking class, she was nervous at first, her voice trembling, but as she told her stories, the room fell silent. No one laughed at her. They applauded. For the first time, Sophia wasn't just rediscovering herself, she was finally being seen by others. After 6 months of studying, the center held a graduation ceremony. Sophia was chosen to give the closing speech in front of dozens of guests, donors, teachers, and fellow trainees. She stood on stage holding the microphone, her heart pounding. She took a deep breath and began, "I used to think I was a failure, someone unworthy of being loved, but then I met people like Aunt Anna, like Mrs. Margaret, and like all of you people who didn't ask who I used to be, but who asked who I wanted to become." She paused, her eyes welling up. "Thank you to everyone at the center for teaching me that every person, no matter how many times they fall, deserves a new beginning." The room fell silent. Then came the applause rolling in like waves. Mrs. Margaret nodded, her eyes glowing with pride. After the ceremony, a local newspaper reporter who had been in the audience approached Sophia and asked for permission to publish her speech. A week later, an article titled "The Girl Who Slept Under a Bridge and a Life Reborn Through Kindness" was printed, stirring the hearts of many. No one expected that small article would open a big door. A young publishing house contacted Sophia, offering her the chance to continue writing about everyday life, her experiences, reflections, and hopes. Sophia couldn't believe her eyes. She, once seen as a useless burden, was now being invited to become an author. But what made her happiest wasn't the publishing deal. It was the phone call from Aunt Anna, the woman who had quietly served her that very first bowl of porridge. Through tears, she said, "You've truly gotten back on your feet. I'm so proud of you." Sophia looked out the window of the center, sunlight filtering through the leaves. She knew the road ahead was still long, still full of challenges. But now she was no longer the girl who kept her head down in shame. She stood tall because she knew her worth didn't lie in her past, but in how she chose to live today. While Sophia was rebuilding her life with determination and faith not far away, Lena, the girl who once had everything, was slowly slipping from the throne she had built for herself. Her family was falling apart. Her parents had to sell off assets to cover the legal fees from the ongoing lawsuit surrounding the missing necklace. When the story broke in the press that there was no clear evidence Sophia had stolen anything, that the case had been swept under the rug and handled suspiciously, the public began to ask questions. Neighbors murmured Sophia was such a sweet girl and they threw her out without mercy. And Lena, she was always arrogant and full of herself. Maybe she made the whole thing up. Though no hard evidence existed against Lena, the suspicion and growing coldness from friends, neighbors, and even relatives left her reeling. Gone were the cheers, the parties, the admiration. Lena now lived quietly in a home that grew quieter by the day. Her mother, once her staunchest defender, had become distant. The look in her eyes was no longer proud, but something dangerously close to disappointment. Lena tried to justify herself. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just told the truth. She left on her own." But even she couldn't look herself in the mirror anymore. On sleepless nights, Lena would bolt awake, her heart pounding as she recalled the moment Sophia was cast out. Those tearful eyes that offered no defense. The frail figure walking silently into the night. She began having nightmares. In her dreams, she stood in a large room full of people. They pointed fingers and hurled accusations. And she, desperate to explain, couldn't speak. The only sound was Sophia's quiet, heart-wrenching sobs echoing through the room. During the day, Lena pretended to be normal. She still went to school, but her friends gradually drifted away. The whispers behind her back grew louder. Her teachers stopped showing her the favoritism she once enjoyed. One day in class, as she raised her hand to speak, a boy muttered just loud enough, "Careful, don't lose your stuff." The room filled with stifled giggles. Lena froze. She never thought things could turn around so fast. Even her best friend Anissa began to pull away. When Lena finally confronted her, Anissa said simply, "I'm not sure you did the right thing, Lena. Some truths can't stay buried forever." Loneliness wrapped around Lena like a dark shroud. She felt herself being swallowed by guilt, even though she kept pretending everything was fine on the outside. One day, while idly scrolling through her phone, Lena came across a news article, "The Girl Who Slept Under a Bridge and Her Journey Back from the Darkness." A photo of Sophia standing on the stage, eyes shining, smiling genuinely, hit Lena like a punch to the chest. She read every word, every line. It wasn't just the story of a girl who had suffered, but of someone who had grown, someone Lena had once cruelly tried to destroy. A strange, unfamiliar feeling washed over her. Shame. She remembered the moment they discovered the necklace was missing. In that instant of rage, jealousy, and a desperate need to appear good in front of her parents, she had pointed at Sophia without thinking, without proof, just because she envied her, envious of the attention Sophia received. The adopted daughter who at times seemed to be loved more than she was. Lena broke down. She collapsed onto her bedroom floor, clutching a pillow, sobbing like a child. There was no one left to perform for, no strength to fake anymore. She had driven someone out of their home, forced them to sleep in the streets, face hunger and cold, all because of one moment of selfishness. Days passed. Lena didn't go to school. She avoided everyone, shut down her social media, cut contact with anyone who might bring up Sophia's name. But hiding wasn't a solution. Her conscience wouldn't let her rest. One rainy afternoon, Lena decided to do something she never thought she would. She went to the Margaret Foundation, the place the article said Sophia was studying. She stood outside the gate for a long time, rain soaking her hair, her mind in turmoil. When she finally stepped inside, the receptionist looked at her curiously. "I'm here to apologize," Lena said softly. The receptionist froze. You're Lena." Lena nodded. Eyes cast downward. After a while, Mrs. Margaret came out. Her gaze was stern but not hateful. "You want to see Sophia, don't you?" Lena choked back tears. "I know. It might be too late, but I need to tell the truth, whether she forgives me or not." Mrs. Margaret was quiet for a moment, then said gently, "Forgiveness isn't to make the other person feel better. It's to allow yourself to begin again." Lena wept. These weren't vague tears of regret. They were the tears of awakening. She had been wrong, and now finally she wanted to make things right. Even if it was slow, even if it was late, even if it would take a long road. When the door behind her opened and Sophia appeared in the hallway, Lena knew this moment of reckoning would change everything once again. Sophia stepped out from behind the hallway, the soft afternoon light casting a gentle glow on her face. Elegant, poised, and calm, as if she had never been hurt. But in her eyes there still flickered something deeply human. A trace of caution, a scar not yet fully healed. Lena stood still. She wanted to speak, but her throat tightened. The image of Sophia with her torn backpack walking into the night that day flashed back. An image Lena had once pushed out of her mind, now clear as a mirror reflecting her soul. "Sophia?" Lena's voice came out fragile, like it might shatter midair. Sophia didn't respond immediately. She looked at Lena for a long time, then gently asked, "Why are you here?" Lena clenched her fists, took a deep breath. "I came to apologize." She paused, as if making sure she wouldn't take the words back. Then, like a dam breaking, the words poured out uncontrollably. "I know I was wrong. I lied. I framed you. That necklace. It wasn't lost. I hid it and said you took it. I was selfish, petty, and despicable." Lena sobbed. Tears streamed down her cheeks, washing away the makeup she had so carefully applied. She continued, her voice breaking. At that time, I just wanted my parents to notice me. I was jealous seeing how much they loved you, and instead of learning to accept it, I chose the cruelest way. I pushed you out, took away everything you had. Sophia said nothing. No one did. Time seemed to pause, with only the soft breathing of the two girls filling the space, one facing the truth, the other listening to the cruelty of the past she had endured. I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness, Lena went on, her voice splintering. Because I know I don't deserve it, but if hearing the truth can give you some peace, then I'll tell it all, even if everyone hates me for it. Sophia looked at Lena. For the first time in her life, she saw this person stripped of arrogance, stripped of pride. All that remained was a girl tormented by her own conscience. Silence stretched out until Sophia softly exhaled. So, finally, you admit it. Lena lowered her head, her shoulders trembling. Sophia stepped closer. Her voice was calm, yet carried weight. You know I used to hate you. Every night I curled up in the cold and dark, hungry and cast aside. I swore I'd never forgive you. But then I met others who had been abandoned, wrongly accused, who lost everything like I did. And I realized something. If I carried hate, I was no better than you. Lena looked up. Her eyes widened, not believing what she had just heard. Forgiveness isn't because you deserve it, Sophia continued. It's because I deserve peace. Then she reached out and wiped away the tears streaming down Lena's face. But to truly be forgiven, you have to live differently. It's not just about saying sorry, it's about changing. Can you do that? Lena nodded repeatedly, her eyes still filled with tears, but this time there was a spark, a light of a soul beginning to heal. I'll try my best. Not to erase my mistakes, but to never make them again, Lena whispered. News of that conversation never spread, but it changed them both. Sophia continued her studies at the Margaret Foundation. With the guidance of Mrs. Margaret, a strong and compassionate mentor, she gradually became an inspiration. She shared her story at youth conferences, helping others overcome pain and rediscover their self-worth. A year later, Sophia earned a full scholarship to an international university majoring in social work. She left the city in tears and to the cheers of hundreds of students she had once helped. But before departing, she left a short letter for Lena. Thank you for having the courage to face the truth. I believe you can become a good person if you choose to. Live not just to make up for the past, but to help others, like we once were lost, fragile, and doubted. I forgive you, and I hope one day you can forgive yourself too. Lena kept that letter like a treasure. She started over not with parties or reputation, but with small acts. She joined charity groups, visited slums, cooked meals for the needy, helped children learn to read. Each step was a way to redeem herself. Every thank you she received was a reminder. The past may hurt, but the future is what you choose to make of it. Their parents, once burdened by shame and guilt, also changed. They became more open, more humble, and later contributed to the charity programs Sophia and Lena helped lead. The story of two sisters, one who falsely accused one who lost everything, became a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and rising from ruin. Some wounds never fully heal, but with the courage to face them both, the ones who cause pain and those who suffer can walk forward, growing, living more meaningfully, and proving that kindness, no matter how buried, can be rekindled from the ashes.